This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
Here we go. It is that time again. The Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Yours truly, Joe Trahan, along with producer extraordinaire, the one, the only, Andrew Cely, who has put together a lot of fun tonight. We've got a mixed bag tonight, but hopefully you'll like it. So what you got cooking, man?
Well, let's start with something not sports related before we get into what's on the show, because you've been an adamant supporter of daylight savings time.
Oh.
I am not. And I hate losing an hour this time of year. It throws me off the entire way. Seeing the clock tick from 1:59 to 3, not fun last night, Joe. That's all I'm going to say for right now. How do you feel?
Listen, this is the best time of year. We have all that sunlight. You know, if you got a day off, if you got a Saturday off and you want to catch a late round, you can go out at like 4:30, 5 o'clock and get around. This is the best time of the year. And I think the masses would agree with yours truly.
I'm not totally sure with that.
think
Let's
I
get
might be
into it with what's on the show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFM.
Well, free agency kicks off this week in the NFL, but there's already plenty of moves to discuss, specifically around the Cowboys and what they did and didn't do in preparation. We'll break down all the details. The Stars' franchise record win streak came to an end, but they're still in the thick of a packed Western Conference, and it's the return of no fence riding thanks to a little help from Mike Leslie. More on that a little bit later on in the show. That's what's on the show, though. Now, who's on the show?
Well, we got our main man, the one, the only, Saad Yousuf. He does so much great work around town, whether it's on radio, reading him on, listening to him there, or reading him on The Athletic. Wherever he is, it's always going to be great stuff. And he is a multi-talented, multi-tool player. So he's perfect for the mixed bag we've got in store for you tonight. But let's start with that topic, Saad. We're not starting with sports. Let's start with the whole daylight saving, no S, time. What's your take? You like standard time, daylight saving? Which one would you prefer?
I'm sorry to do this to you, Joe, but I gotta side with Andrew.
Okay.
I'm on the side of not liking the springing forward. Now, I'm fine with daylight saving only because, I like the fall when you get to go back an hour. That's great. And for me, give me all the darkness. Give me all the peace and darkness. I'm a vampire. I love it.
Yeah, give us the darkness retreats. That's what we're really here for.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And grab some of that ayahuasca while you're at it. No, thank you. No, thank you. But here's the deal, guys.
Oh, boy.
You lose 1 hour for 1 day. And that's it. Because every other day after that,
how much gets disrupted by that 1 hour, though?
I promise you, every other day after that's going to have 24 hours in them. I promise you guys. I do.
Oh, boy.
It can be disruptive. I don't disagree there. You just have to prepare.
Speaking of savings, though, the Cowboys involved in a little attempt to acquire Max Crosby from the Raiders. That was obviously one of the biggest headlines heading into free agency this week. Saad, what did you make of the fact that they didn't land him, and did you like the fact that they did not necessarily break the boat to try and acquire him?
Yeah, I thought it was positive for the Cowboys all the way around. I mean, number one, the fact that they were legitimately in the running by all accounts and reports of people in the know. The Cowboys are always linked to whatever big player hits the market or in the trade market or free agency, but we never know how legitimate it is. It really felt like this was a legitimate attempt by the Cowboys, and I love that they have that aggressiveness in them. At the same time, I'm glad they did not give up 2 1s, because if you give up 2 1s and claim to be a draft and develop team, and you already are without a number 2 and a number 3 this year, and all of a sudden you're that limited, it's really tough for you to build a franchise and build a successful team going forward. And that's coming from someone. I totally understand where they are in the Dak Prescott window and how crucial it is these next 3 years. But you can't just completely, dismiss what the future of the franchise can look like. And no matter what the salaries and, what the salary cap situation is, the number one aid to getting out of a bad cap situation is draft picks. It's that cheap labor. It's the cheap contracts that you can get in the draft. So I like the fact they were involved, and I'm glad they didn't give up 2 1s for it.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I would say this, it even furthers this notion and furthers this feel that we've had so far in this offseason. It does feel a little bit different. I think even Jerry Jones' harshest critics would have to admit things do feel a little bit different with the way they hired Christian Parker, with the way that they signed Javonte Williams so quickly as soon as they could, with the way they're going about this. Because you're right, Saad. I mean, so many times we've heard, the Cowboys kicking the tires on X free agent. And there were so many times when I'm like, they weren't really going to do anything, you guys. They weren't. That's the agents trying to hype up the value of their client. This time, as you mentioned, I thought it was different. I thought there was general interest. Now, I will say, as soon as I heard what the Cowboys were willing to give up, I'm like, well, they're not going to get him. But, but now, when it comes to, how much would they spend for a Trey Hendrickson? I think that the mode that they have to go into is being aggressive without completely breaking the bank. And I think those two things can be true. You could be really aggressive. You have to be really smart. That's where they're really going to make their hay in terms of, because the positions that they need help with, when you think about linebacker and safety especially, are not necessarily valued in this league. So there are ways that you can certainly put yourself in a really good position if you make smart moves, especially with those positions. What's your take, Andrew?
So my issue with the analysis is this. It's not that they haven't been smart in certain aspects of it. I like a lot of what they've done. I think it's funny, though, that you're going to say that they've gotten ahead on certain contracts like Javonte Williams, and then all of a sudden Brandon Aubrey, who is arguably one of the more valuable guys on the roster, is sitting here going like, hey, where's my money? And I'm not saying he's worth $10 million, which was initially reported. I know there's some issues with that side of it, Saad, but to me it's like, you're gonna have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and there is a little bit still of, well, we want to go all in on paying our best players what they're actually worth, and that's still a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's actually, everything they're doing contract-wise is actually par for the course in the fact that they've always got the middle contracts done pretty early. Remember, they got Trayvon Diggs, Terrence Steele. You go back to last year, Jake Ferguson. They'll get these guys, Javonte Williams, when they're at the middle of their position in terms of salary cap hit, they get those guys done. It's always the guys that are trying to reset the market, right? I mean, it's the Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, now Brandon Aubrey, who's trying to become the highest paid kicker, not to mention dealing with Todd France, who has taken the Cowboys to the ringer. That's Brandon Aubrey's agent, who is also Dak Prescott's agent. So it's pretty consistent. They get those guys that are middle of the pack at their position pay done pretty quickly. They don't really worry about that. Look at Osa Odigizua last year as well, but then look at Micah on the other side, Dak on the other side, CeeDee Lamb on the other side. So those are the contracts that usually stretch out. It's the ones that are trying to reset the market. Yeah,
another thing I would say about Brandon Aubrey is this, and we can't forget the simple fact, he's a kicker.
Sure.
He's a kicker. He's a kicker. He's barely a football player. He's a great football player.
Okay.
He might be one of the best kickers that has ever kicked a football.
Right.
But he's still a kicker. And so when it comes to the market with kickers, because there is a very real possibility, as great as Butter Aubrey is, he could fall off a cliff.
He could.
Right? He could.
Sure.
He could. I'm not saying that he will, but I'm just saying in terms of kickers, and when you think about the difference between said kicker and another kicker, 5-7 yards, right? Which has been fantastic for him. And I'm not taking anything away from Brandon Aubrey. I am reminding Brandon Aubrey and his representatives that he is still a kicker. And when you think about the difference between the incredibly great ones and the ones who are league average, it's just not big enough to worry about trying to set the market. Because here's the other thing. I mean, we're talking about 5.8 on the tender. What does he want? Do you want 7? Do you want 9? I mean, I don't believe, I hope the 10 million figure was just balderdash, which a lot of people think it was, because if he even said that out loud, I'd laugh at him too and say, enjoy the tender. So have fun with the tender.
So here's my thing. His value is part of the reason why we think the Cowboys are closer than they actually are, because he extends that offense's lethality just by the fact that he's on the field. And again, we're talking 5 to 7 yards maybe from league average, but that's farther, or it's the farthest range that's ever been in the NFL. And I understand, like I've been a fan of a team that had Mason Crosby, who was one of the best kickers in the NFL. He had several seasons where he missed 5 field goals in a game, and he has gone up and down. Like that's part and parcel with kickers. I'm not suggesting that he's going to maintain that form.
What I'm reminding you.
But at the same time, it's also sitting there thinking, like, 3 points, especially when we've had that discussion where guys are more willing to go for it on 4th downs, 3 points rack up a lot more, and his value is, I think, is understated to a certain degree. And on top of it, you want to talk about resetting the market? he's closer to the top of his position than everybody else that's tried to reset the market for the Cowboys. That's the difference.
That's why I think Jerry Jones and company have smartly offered him the highest contract for any kicker in the league, which I think should be enough for Aubrey, but it won't because he's got Todd France as his agent.
Sure.
Right? And I get it. I get it. All right, we're going to take a break, but there's plenty more to cover. In fact, we're going to talk a little more Cowboys, we're going to talk some more NFL, and we are going to hit the Dallas Stars because down the stretch they come, and this thing is looking like it's going to be really good. Stick with us, folks. It is the ultimate Dallas sports show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Cooper Flagg filled up the stat sheet again, 17 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, but the Mavs still fall to the Raptors 122-92, and the Stars overcome an early 2-goal deficit to beat the Blackhawks at home 4-3 in overtime. Miro Heiskanen had the winner in OT. So just a quick disclaimer, we're taping the show a little bit early tonight. It's right dead center in the middle of the Stars game, so we don't necessarily know the result right now. At the same time, a lot to talk about in Starsville. Franchise record 10 straight, which, I'll be honest, I was a little surprised that they had only just eclipsed the double-digit win barrier in that regard. Didn't that surprise you?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked, and I was like, wait, really? Really? And I think on the other side, I think their total for losses in a row is only like 6.
Exactly.
Very interesting not having, ripped off a 12, 13, 14 game win streak before, especially with them winning Stanley Cups. We know about all the conference finals they've been to.
Right.
The one Stanley Cup and all the conference finals that they have been to.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Saad, what's your biggest takeaway so far from what you've seen, especially recently from this team in and around the Olympic break as well?
They just can't catch a break, man. It's I understand the 10-game win streak is great, but when you're looking at a situation where Tyler Seguin officially goes on LTIR out for the season and the playoffs, a decision they recently had to make, and then on top of that, Mikko Rantanen is out, and he's going to have to work his way back. Thomas Harley missed some time early in the season. He's back now. And now on top of that, you got Rope Hintz, who might not be back until the very end of the regular season going into the playoffs. It's a very talented team. And then on top of the injuries, you probably have 2 of the best teams in the NHL in your own division in the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche. It's just tough. They can't catch a break, whether it's the circumstances around them. The first round matchup is going to be brutal. It's a really good team is going to get eliminated in the first round, and the team that moves on is going to be exhausted. So my biggest takeaway as we approach the home stretch, they're going to have to make do without some of their top players, and they're going to have a really tough matchup in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're right. Add Radek Faksa, right? Yeah. I mean, it just all these names, and it's hard to absorb, all of those injuries and keep going. But they still, I will say this, it feels as though there's complete buy-in with what Gulletson is selling. Right, and we saw that kind of manifest itself with not just the way that they were performing, but who was performing so well. It feels like the scoring load is being transferred to some names that you wouldn't expect big output from, but they can show up in this system. It feels like there's more physicality, which I think is what Glenn Gulletson wanted, and I think that can mean good things. But you do need those big guns back as soon as possible. And you're right, Saad, because I was thinking, man, this would be really cool. The Western Conference Final. Does the Western Conference Final end up being the de facto Cup Final? Could it be that good?
Nope,
it's hockey. Round. It's hockey. So right, it's hockey. So you can't think about it that way. But then when you think about the playoff structure, you're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the double-edged sword of having these division rivalries earlier on to breed hate. The other thing I'll say, though, where the Stars are concerned, it feels like we get 2 versions of this team. One that started off hot, then that had that long lull. Now they're hot again. I'm worried that this streaky element is going to continue. Injuries or not, it feels like there's just moments where they lose their game side, and that scares me a little bit, especially when you get into a playoffs and it's like, okay, 4 losses, you're out.
Yeah, and look, as much as the Seguin injury hurts, Rantanen, Hintz, Heiskanen, Harley, Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, these guys should all be there when the playoffs begin. It's tough sledding to get to the end of the regular season, but they should be there. And we should also mention that in a town that is very loud when it comes to GMs, when it comes to Jerry Jones, Nico Harrison up until recently, and then Chris Young putting together a championship team, Jim Nill might be the best one pound for pound in terms of consistency. And to add a couple of guys at the trade deadline, I thought that was a savvy move. I thought that was great. And on top of all these players, Jake Ottinger is going to be the X factor as he always is. And he shows up for the big game. So I still have confidence in the Stars going into the playoffs. It's just not going to be easy.
Well, the other thing is, when you talk about Jim Nill, I'd just like to thank him personally because it's not every day that you bring a player in whose nickname is the Chaos Giraffe.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is just absolute gold for us on TV because that will be worked in. We will have fun with that because the Chaos Giraffe is one of the best nicknames. And in the game today, I'm sure some of you Stars fans saw, he was paired with Liam Bichel. So we got a 6'7" and 6'8" duo on the blue line. It's like Chaos Giraffe and the big Dino Bichel. I mean, two just hulking figures, and I can't wait to see what kind of havoc they could wreak together.
Yeah, really sticking the long neck out there. Saad, looking at the acquisitions, how much do you think they can make a difference, especially on the blue line?
I think they can make a big difference. And the blue line has been the part that we've been talking about this team for years. It feels like up front they've usually been able to get their business taken care of. It's always on the blue line. And it's really going to come back to the three guys that you drafted in the first round. And that's the guy Joe mentioned, Liam Bichel, and then Thomas Harley and Miro Heiskanen. With all due respect to Mikko Rantanen, Roope Hintz, anybody else, Miro Heiskanen remains the team's best player. And as long as he's on the ice, I don't think people realize how much he tilts the favor for the Stars. So as long as he's out there, I think the Stars have a good chance. And I think the blue line in general is a lot more balanced than it has been in recent years. And that's going to be really important when you go through the forwards that are going to be there in the Western Conference.
Yeah, Heiskanen's skills, speed, defense, savvy. I mean, he's got it all. He puts it on display. Absolutely vital for the health of this club. All right, we got to take another time out. Some fun and games here. Stay with us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for everyone except Michelle's favorite game, no fence riding. The concept is simple. I've got a statement for our panel. They got to decide which side of the fence they're on, no riding, or they get called out. And here to deliver today's statement, the one and only Mike Leslie from 1 week ago.
There are parts of having a salary cap that are a positive. It helps have parity in sports, but it is also one of the great cons in the history of professional sports because all it has done is create a scenario where fans side with billionaires when players want to make checks. It's lunacy to me, and they're going to do it with George Pickens. They're going to do it with Brandon Aubrey. They're going to do it with everybody. And for what? What?
This is a much longer discussion, I feel like.
Yes,
I need to segue into next week.
Segue
into next week. He decided to spring this on me for the final take while we were already taping and running 5 minutes over, by the way. But here's the statement. The salary cap is a scam because it makes fans side with billionaires when players want to make money. Saad, lead us off here. Do you agree or do you don't?
I completely disagree. I mean, are we watching the Dodgers right now? Are we watching Major League Baseball? Do we like what's happening in Major League Baseball? I don't think anybody does. It's the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, it's the Red Sox. So you have the example right there in front of you. I think the salary cap, it's all about how much you're listening to what they're telling you because Jerry will sell you about how they're cap strapped all the time. I was at the NFL Combine a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to John Eric Sullivan, the general manager of the Miami Dolphins, and he made a great point because they're facing a big decision on Tua and, with free agency that could result in a $99 million cap hit. And to his point, he said, you can do whatever you want with the salary cap. You can punt it down the road. You can do it. You have the creativity and flexibility. So, yeah, if you're just buying what they're selling to you at the podium, it's not great. But overall, I think the salary cap it makes the game more fun.
Joe?
I would say this. With the way that the Cowboys have used the salary cap as a shield at times, I do believe it absolutely becomes a scam. But here's the actual real scam of it all, because all the salary cap is a governor for the owners who really want to spend and pay these players what they could be worth for their team. They don't do that because they have the salary cap to blame. It keeps other owners from not getting into disputes with their fellow brethren. Don't you dare pay him that much money, because if you pay him that much, then I'm going to have to pay him that much. I think you bring up a great point in terms of baseball and the Dodgers. You're right, because baseball has a problem with the floor of their salary cap. The NFL, I think it's different, right? Because these teams understand the gazillions of dollars that can be made when you know how to do it correctly. Baseball's different when you think about TV rights, them being local, not being, shared as one with revenue sharing, the CBA and all that other kind of stuff. They work differently, right? But in football specifically, absolute scam. Absolute scam. And oh, by the way, I've been trying to tell people for the better part of my career, why would you side with the billionaire and think about, hey, I can't believe Dak Prescott's going to make $60 million. Well, do you know what Jerry's worth with the team? It's $15 billion now.
Yeah.
You guys do the math. Do the math.
I think the interesting thing would be if you take the salary cap off, how much would the Cowboys improve? Because would they actually spend that money, or do they like the profit margin? That's always the question.
That's a great question.
All right.
Right. I think that is a shield. And just real quick, I'll say one of the worst cap decisions in the NFL in recent memory was the Broncos with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And they were in the AFC title game 2 years after that. So
Bang.
anything can be done with the salary cap.
It's a credit card. You can always use the credit card. Great point.
Saad, thanks so much for joining us on the Sunday. Really appreciate it. Joe's final take coming up next.
My final take, as so often it is pointed right at Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. It is time, my friends, to bust the budget, as Jerry has said on more than one occasion. Now's your opportunity. But I want you to do so in a creative and smart way. Spend the money. Make it happen. Get big-time free agents. Take on risk, because that will get you closer to where you need to go and where your fans deserve to go. But do it smartly, right? Don't just wantonly spend money, right? And now I'm going to go on a 15-minute soliloquy about why the salary
Mike
cap
wasn't on the show
is
this week.
absolute idiocy. It's the spirit of Michael.
Well, you know what? I'll also go on a 15-minute soliloquy about how bad daylight savings time, especially today. I need sleep. I need another hour at least, Joe. Can we just kick it off right now? I'll just turn
will have that hour back tonight.
Oh, well, sure,
and then
maybe.
I promise you're gonna have 24 hours in the day,
morning.
and then you're gonna have all that sunshine and think about all that good sleep you got back.
Sunshine when I'm trying to sleep.
Protect the sunshine at all costs.
Sure.
Go to the light.
Thanks so much for watching the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We will see you guys next week.
Good night, everybody.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.